Welcome to Del Mar, California. I'm Mike, and this is Kitchen with a View. We have an amazing Valentine's Day 2014 meal prepared for you today. Starting with a crisp pork belly with a Marionberry glaze and a poached egg. Moving right along to a Frisee and Arugula salad, fresh strawberries, fresh roasted pine nuts, balsamic vinaigrette, balsamic glaze, Point Reyes blue cheese. That's the real winner in that one. The main event, seared sea scallops, celery root puree, shaved fennel, finished off with an infused tarragon olive oil. Hope you can stick around, learn how to make a few things, impress your date, impress your wife, whoever it may be, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So, to begin our meal, we're gonna have an amuse-bouche. French call it, they make complicated words. Basically what it is it's a first taste. We're gonna poach an egg, we're gonna sear a nice piece of pork belly with some Marionberry jam, and we're gonna wilt up some Frisee. Let's get right into it. You can go to your butcher shop to get your pork belly. Most places have it, Whole Foods, nice butcher, wherever it may be. You wanna get a nice piece. What we're gonna do is score the skin. I'm gonna do a couple of things. It's gonna allow the jam to kind of marinate in to the skin. We're gonna give it a nice crisp. We're gonna get our pan going. We're gonna, again, sear it, nice high heat. We're gonna use the grapeseed oil as to not burn it. So first things first though, I'm poaching an egg. Fresher the egg, the better. Couple reasons. When we're gonna put it in the water, we want it to stay together and come out in its form almost the way it looks when it's in its shell. So the white is what it is, and it's firm, it's fresh, that's the protein. We're not gonna have all of the feathers dangling off of it. That's what you're looking for. Couple tricks. You wanna let it get a little bit warm. You don't want it straight out of the fridge, right into the water. It's gonna cause it to feather. The protein's gonna break up. It's just not gonna be as nice of an end result. White vinegar. Pour into a little bowl. Crack your egg right into the vinegar and let that hang out for about 5 minutes while we prepare our water. Medium-sized saucepan. Fill it almost all the way up. Get your fire going. When you're poaching an egg, you don't actually want it to come to a boil because obviously that's going to cook it too much. You're not going to have the benefits that you want in a poached egg. You want the white protein to be nice and firm, not opaque, and you want the yolk to still be runny in the middle. We're going to let that come to almost a boil. Then we're going to create a whirlpool using a whisk. We're gonna put the egg right into the middle of that whirlpool. What's that gonna do? It's gonna keep it cooking and it's gonna keep its shape intact. Comes out, it's gonna be a perfectly shaped, looking like it was when it was in its shell. We're gonna cover it. We're gonna let it do its thing for 5 minutes and move right on to the pork belly. Okay, so pan's nice and hot. In goes our pork belly. You're gonna wanna get all 4 sides nice and seared, and you can see how quickly that's going. Beautifully caramelizing. We've got the initial sear. And we're gonna add our Marionberry. Gonna bring it back over, turn that heat down. Just let that hang out. So as it renders down, some of the natural fats that's coming out of the pork belly is gonna mix right in there with the jam. Just gonna soak it all up, absorb it. We've got our pork belly beautifully seared right there, exactly the way we want. Let's build our plate. A little bit of Frisee for some color. Green on there. Took a little bit of the Marionberry jam, mixed it up with a little bit of cream. Give us a nice glaze. Let's put down the star of the show, the pork belly. Right there. Beautiful. Our Poached egg. Slide it right on there. A little bit on top. And that's inviting you to come dine at Kitchen with a View. Moving right along, the second course of this meal is going to be a beautiful salad. We're going to use Point Reyes blue cheese, best in the business. We're going to incorporate some Frisee, baby arugula, roasted pine nuts, so we're going to roast those up. And then we're going to also some beautiful fresh strawberries, going to incorporate those in there, help cut through the acidity in the balsamic vinaigrette we're going to make. Again, basic, simple ingredients. You put them all together, you make the dressing from scratch, you roast the pine nuts, and you know, maybe this is the first date, second date, third date, Valentine's Day. A couple ingredients. Red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, olive oil, and then we're going to use balsamic vinegar as this is going to be a balsamic vinaigrette. So, since the balsamic vinaigrette is going to be the base of the dressing, let's put that in first. Do about a quarter cup. Only about, I'd say, a teaspoon of the white vinegar. Don't need very much of that. And then we're gonna do about a teaspoon of red wine vinegar as well. And we're gonna add our olive oil, probably about 1 tablespoon. Okay. Fresh cracked pepper, sea salt, adjust, a little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper. I'm gonna add a dash more of the balsamic. And there you go. Have a nice, fresh, from scratch salad dressing. So let's get back to the rest of our ingredients. Strawberries, Frisee, baby arugula. You're gonna wanna give this a good rinse. The easiest way to trim to clean the Frisee, it's got a base to it just like that. So you can just go right along there, and then it makes it a lot more manageable. That's the usable part right there, is what we're gonna be using for our salad. We'll go ahead and just put that in our bowl. There. Want to pick nice, bright, red, ripe strawberries. We're gonna go ahead and just put these strawberries in the nice quarter pieces like this. Set those aside for later. We've got all of our individual pieces. We got all of our greens hanging out in here after we gave them a good rinse. If you just take a paper towel over the top of your bowl, give them a good shake. You're gonna dry some of that excess water off of there. So when we build the salad, they're nice and dry. Pine nuts, right there, you can buy them in bulk. You can get them fresh at the farmer's market. So what we're gonna do is get a pan going, medium heat, because we're going to use olive oil to roast these. So let that pan get going, and I'm going to put a little olive oil. And ultimately what we want to do is have these roasted so they're like a rich caramel color. All you need is medium heat, a little bit of olive oil, got our olive oil nice and hot. Not too hot though. You can see how it's not smoking. That's what you want. You don't want to burn the olive oil. We're gonna just put a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt. And then in we go with our pine nuts. Quick flip, want to get those nice and coated. And back on the heat. Okay, so we got a beautiful color going on. Our pine nuts over here, nice rich caramel color. Gonna go ahead and just drain off the excess olive oil. Careful, very hot. So while the pine nuts are cooling off, that's exactly what you're looking for. Nice rich caramel color, roasted all over, not burnt. All we've done is kind of mix together the Frisee with the baby arugula. Those are two types of greens that complement each other well because the Frisee has got some serious spice to it, a little bit of pepper coming through, almost like a horseradish, and the baby arugula is very mellow, very similar to a baby romaine, something like that. So the two of them together are gonna give you a very balanced salad. Add a couple of our strawberries, some of our pine nuts. The last thing you want is it to be a soupy mess. A little bit of balsamic glaze. Pack it into a little bowl. And go in the center of the plate. Couple more strawberries on top. And now for the best part. Take some of your blue cheese. You can just kind of crumble it around the edges. So all the components come together on the plate beautifully. You have your point raised blue cheese, the fresh strawberries, the fresh roasted pine nuts, the Frisee, the arugula, the homemade balsamic vinaigrette, the balsamic glaze. All comes together, ready to go out to a satisfied diner. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make ourselves a nice celery root puree. For those of you who don't know, that's what celery root looks like. Fresh out of the ground, dirty, got pieces of celery hanging all over it. Make sure it's nice and washed. Really what we want here is to just get into the inside. You'll see once you cut that open, it looks almost like jicama. Clean this up. Nice chop there. Square it off, it makes it easier to deal with. Alright, so we've got our celery root pretty much cleaned up there. Get some of those last little bits of skin off there. And just put it into nice. Cube that all up. And we'll set it right over there for a second. Okay, potato. Gonna want to wash that off. And what the potato is gonna do is really just give it a little bit more texture. The starch in the potato going to bind the celery root together. You don't need a huge potato because you don't want the puree to take on a mashed potato flavor and or consistency. There's the skin off there. The same thing. Cube it up. What that does is it just helps it break down, and when we add it to the water, the milk, the seasonings, the garlic, the onion, the rest of the ingredients in the puree, it's just going to help the root vegetables break down easier. When we ultimately puree it up, it's just going to go quicker. Onion, pretty basic, white onion. Cloves of garlic. Just leave it the skin on, so it's gonna do a couple things. It's gonna help it not cook as fast, but also it's gonna keep it from falling apart inside the boil. So here we go. 2 cups of water. Add that into our pot. Add in our celery root, potato, onion, garlic, about a 1/4 cup of whole milk. That's gonna help get us that nice, thick, creamy consistency when we do puree it. Coarse sea salt. Make sure we flavor that up. And some fresh cracked pepper. We're gonna put this on the heat for about 30 minutes. So we're gonna bring it up to a boil. And then as soon as it does reach that boil, we're gonna bring it down to a simmer, cover it, and then it's gonna do its thing. Okay, to go with that puree, we're going to make a infused olive oil tarragon drizzle. Fresh tarragon, don't use dried, you're just not gonna get the result that you want, not to mention, you can just smell it, just beautiful flavor. Give the tarragon a rough chop. I'm gonna smash these garlic cloves, leave them on the skin. We're gonna strain it out later anyway, so no big deal. Nice olive oil, fresh EVOO, extra virgin olive oil is what we're gonna wanna use. And again, whenever you're cooking with olive oil, you don't wanna get it too hot. So we're gonna get it over a medium high flame, get the olive oil nice and warm, and let those things just really just simmer. Get our olive oil in there. And again, we don't need a ton. We're just going to be using it more as a garnish for the final product of the celery root puree. Get that in there. Put in our garlic, our fresh tarragon. Give it a couple cracks. Pepper, salt, and that's pretty much going to be on autopilot as well. Just let that olive oil really absorb all that tarragon flavor. So we've got our puree ingredients to a nice boil. So what we're gonna do, reduce that down to a simmer. We've got the olive oil infusing nicely. Again, that's on the simmer. Gonna add a little bit of butter. Maybe a tablespoon into our mixture. And you can already smell those great aromatic flavors coming from the celery root, the potatoes, the white onion, just a really nice set of flavors coming together. We're gonna add a little bit, possibly a teaspoon of white pepper. That's gonna bring through all those flavors, just connect the dots. You don't wanna overdo it with the white pepper because it will completely overpower the puree and not have a nice subtle silky taste. It's gonna be really harsh. We're gonna cover that up and let it simmer. Check on our olive oil, infusing nicely. Beautiful smell coming off of there. About 30 minutes on both, we'll check back. We'll then put it in the food processor. Let's get back to our tarragon. That's been marinating nicely with the fresh tarragon, the garlic, the olive oil, a little salt, a little pepper. We're gonna grind this up and then we're gonna strain it. And it's gonna be a beautiful flavor for our celery root puree. If you don't have a Vinaigrette or a blender, you can just strain it. It's gonna give you the same outcome, but by doing it this way, we're gonna get some of the color from the tarragon. I want this to be a nice, vibrant green. So you can see the olive oil is taking on the color of the tarragon as well. There's the flavor. So, I'm gonna put that in a little jar. Okay, so our celery root, onion, potato, everything's cooked down nicely. We're gonna strain that, use what we need, get rid of the cooking liquid. We're gonna put it in the food processor. We're gonna puree it, get that beautiful puree coming through. It's gonna be nice, light, fluffy, and it's gonna be a beautiful centerpiece for our scallops. The root vegetables that when we first started were rock hard. Now nice and cooked all the way through. We've got our potatoes, our onion, the celery root, food processor. Beautiful smells coming out of there. Get a couple pulses. We want this to be a silky smooth consistency, almost like mashed potatoes. And you can see right there that just one potato, it gives it a little bit of that starchiness. We're gonna give it a little bit more pepper. A bit more salt. Give this a couple more whips. And that is beautiful cream-like consistency you're looking through with any sort of puree. You don't want any really chunks in there. The main course for this meal is going to be our seared sea scallops. First things first, whenever we're going to sear anything, that pan's going to be incredibly hot, so we want these scallops as dry as we possibly can get them. Just give them a nice press. Flip them over, do the same thing on the other side. We're going to give these just a light seasoning. Fresh cracked pepper, coarse sea salt. Alrighty, so those are seasoned. We're gonna let those hang out for a second. Our scallops have come up to temperature. Perfect. Worst thing you can do is overcook a scallop. You're gonna become a rubbery hockey puck. You want it caramelized and browned on the outside. You want it tender and opaque in the middle. So here we go. Into our grapeseed oil. 2 minutes each side. Nice and hot, no messing with them, and you should turn out with a perfectly seared scallop every single time. 2 minutes, flip them over. That is exactly what you want. A perfect ring around those beautiful scallops, caramelized, brown, opaque, tender in the middle. We're gonna pull those off the heat. Beautiful scallops. You've got that brown caramelization, still plump to the touch. We're gonna let those hang out right there. They're continuing to cook with all that heat being driven right to the center of that product. Definitely err on the cautious side with these. You can always cook something more. Once you overdo it, you're done, especially with scallops. Ruin someone's night. We've got our scallops looking good. We've got our celery root puree. Let's build a beautiful plate. Give them just a little tap off. Let's come back to our last ingredient of the celery root puree, fennel. What we're gonna do with this, we're not gonna use a whole lot of it, but we're gonna clean it up, use the fronds, as well as a little bit of the bulb itself, just shave it finely, and then we're gonna drizzle it over the top of our final dish. So, to clean it, pretty easy. Just give it a quick wash. You can set the fronds over there for later. Almost got the texture of a piece of celery, actually. You wanna just use the inner piece as thin as you can go. Just a little bit like that, and then we're gonna use a couple of the fronds. Just a nice fine chop on some of the fronds. Gonna give us a little bit of color. Some of those fine pieces that we shaved off. A little bit of our tarragon drizzle. Bon appetit.